which is known as the world's longest running play. That's a good point you can add. Or if you read books, like have any of you read any of Agatha Christie's books? Anyone? None of you? Okay, it's fine. I've only read one. Personally for me, I've only read one book and I liked her book, it was good. The issue for me was that she tended to stretch the story, because to make it natural, she tends to stretch it a lot, and I didn't like that. Mostly because I kept forgetting the names and the characters and the incidents. It was difficult for me to catch up. Apart from that, she's a wonderful writer. Okay, so that's the entire point. You can add a few names of the books, maybe from the text itself, or if you have read her books, mention those names. For example, Third Girl is a book she wrote. You can mention that as well. Anywho, now let's move forward to the story, okay? Okay, what is the story about? I mean, it's not deeper into her life, because since it's an excerpt, we get to learn more about the characters and how she got into writing in the first place. Now, this is personally interesting for me because I like to write, and I get to find new points, new ideas on how to write. And I'm pretty sure some of you might like to write. Do any of you like writing? Any? It doesn't have to be English, it can be Malayalam. Anyone? What do you write? What? Poems and stories. That's wonderful. What kind of stories? Number two good genres. Stories. That's wonderful. What kind of stories? Number two good genres. Just you like to write stories and poems. That's wonderful. A lot of you love to write, especially since many of you are English students and many of you are psychology students. And it's such a beautiful way of expressing yourself. So one thing I've learned in this book is that she has used a few tactics to create a story. Now before I go deeper into it, let me ask you, what do you need to create a story? What makes a story? Can anyone answer me? Answer? Stand up please. On your feet, come on. No need to be afraid. Okay, what do you need? Creative thinking, that's very important. You need creative thinking. But what makes a story? As in, like, what are the aspects that is required to make a story? There should be a title. I mean, that's true. If there's no title, then there's a story. Then, characters, wonderful. Then one more thing. Twist, okay. Situation, wonderful. You can say plot. It's required, right? Wonderful answer. Thank you. Please give up a round of applause. I'm sorry, my mic is slipping out of my hair. It's weird, but hey, I tried my best. Anyway, the answers are wonderful. Everyone's right. Sorry. Everyone's right. You need characters, you need plot, you need a twist to make it. Also, you need, what else did you say? Creative thinking. Title is required. Anyway, moral. If you want, you can add it. There are certain stories that don't have morals, but morals are always good to make the story more interesting. Anyway, so here she mentions how she brings up the idea of characters. Now, before I go deeper into that, let me give you a small idea. She is a nurse. She used to work as a nurse, and she has retired. This was during the time of World War I. Can anyone tell me when World War I took place? Anyone? Please answer. Madam? Tell me, when is it? 1914 to 1980. So we can get the idea that this happened during the time of 1914 and 1918 when she was a nurse. And she was passionate about writing. Okay, she wanted to write story, especially a detective story. And the thing is, we all want to write a detective story. We just don't exactly have the skill. Because we require a lot of aspects to a story, especially if it's a detective story that requires climax, story, suspense, blah, 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 all the twists and everything, right? So she decides to write a detective story. Now for that, she wants to first focus on creating characters, okay? Now this is very interesting on how she finds characters, okay? At first she wants to think, let me give you a small idea. She is a nurse. She used to work as a nurse and she has retired. This was during the time of World War I. Can anyone tell me when World War I took place? Anyone? Please answer. Madam? Tell me, when is it? idea. Wonderful, 1914 to 1980. So we can get the idea that this happened during the time of 1914 and 1918 when she was a nurse. And she was passionate about writing. Okay, she wanted to write a story, especially a detective story. And the thing is, we all want to write a detective story. We just don't exactly have the skill, because we require a lot of aspects to a story, especially if it's a detective story that requires climax, story, suspense, blah, 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 all the twists and everything, right? So she decides to write a detective story. Now for that, she wants to first focus on creating characters, okay? Now this is very interesting on how she finds characters, okay? At first she wants to think about the crime. And the thing about stories is that one of the most important things is that you need characters. But you also need to answer the two questions. What, why, when, which, and how. Such questions will be asked, and you will need to be answering that questions. For example, a person is dead. How did they die? Family. So it's like, I'm pretty sure some of you have read books or watched movies where the murder happens in a family. Let's just say a wife dies. Okay, the entire family members are all suspects. We don't know who killed them. Okay, everyone's a suspect, and at the end, it's just one person who is a family member, but we did not suspect the person to be the killer. So she wants this idea. Do you have anything to say, Seth? Oh, sorry. Okay. Try this one further. So, okay, so what I'm trying to say is, so this is what she decided to do. She decided to make a story where the crime happens within the family, and the family members, one of them will be the killer. So she decides on an idea, okay? Who is going to be the villain? To her, a villain is someone who has a black beard. Maybe some of you already has a black beard, we don't know. But to her, a guy with a black beard looks very sinister and evil. So that's why she ends up making she decides on a character where the villain is someone who has a black beard, okay? Now, she decides on what should be in the story. The black bearded man has a wife who is old, who's older than him, and who's also very rich. Now, you can get the idea on how and why the man would kill the wife, because she's old and she has money. He wants to be rich, so that's a good idea. But this is the point where she decides there isn't any realism to the characters. I know these characters are fictional, they are, but she wanted to feel something real about these characters, and that's when she decides to use base. Now this is something that you can all note. If you are a writer yourself, you can do this on your own. Whether it be a Malayalam writer, or an English writer, or a Sanskrit writer, or Hindi, Arabic, French, doesn't matter. This is a very wonderful way to write a story. For example, what she did was, this is a question that I have. She goes to a tram. Tram means like metro, right? During the time there was no metro, right? And what is tram? What is a tram here in this context?